All right, welcome back to another episode of Brotherly Love in the District. Tristan here, along with Jacob. Big week to get into, probably a big
Very
episode.
big way.
So you want to go ahead and tell them what we're going to get into?
Yeah, so this week we're going to be talking about week 6 and 7 of the NFL. We're going to talk about the games we played and the games we're going to play. Big news out of the Colts camp with Jim Irsay's comments. So we're going to start to mention that because that's going to have a league-wide effect. Going on into baseball, the NLCS and ALCS are underway, and at least the NLCS is looking like it's going to be a 7-game series, in my opinion. And then finally going into hockey, it's the start of the regular season.
Been an opposite start, in my opinion, for what we thought at least. So
Yeah.
starting off here. First off, what a week to be a Philadelphia fan. I think we'll start off just with the Washington game and then go into the Eagles, just because there's going to be a lot of, there's going to be a lot of Philly talk in this episode. So I want to give you the spotlight while you can have it right now. So the Washington beats the Bears 12-7. In my opinion, another snooze fest. I was watching the Flyers game. It was the first game of the season, and once that ended, I went to turn on Thursday Night Football, and I go, "Oh, it's 3-0 with 10 minutes left in the third. Don't think I really need to watch that." And
No,
yeah,
I think it was. I was having fun at some points though, looking at social media, and everybody's talking about they're forcing us to watch this. We should get like a month free of Amazon Prime for having to watch this crap.
I have a friend who he's like, I can't believe they're forcing me to pay $9 a month to watch, the Denver play the Colts and Washington play the Bears. He goes, "Am I going to do it? Yes, because it's football, but should I have to? Absolutely not. This is absurd."
No. What an ugly game.
Yeah,
the coaching
ugly game
was
to say the
awful.
least.
The play was terrible. Carson Wentz played like crap, but so the offensive line. Wide receivers weren't really much better. The only two players on the offense, at least, well, one offensive guy you can say had a decent game, Brian Robinson, because he had 17 carries for 60 yards, and a lot of those were really he grinded them out. So that was decent. He had his first touchdown, which clinched us, but
which you guys wouldn't have got without that muffed punt. I mean, you guys struggled the entire game.
Tressway had an insane game. That's weird for me to say from the punter, but 6 punts for over 300 yards. He was averaging 51 yards a punt, which is, if you were to do that over a whole year, that's leading the league by a long shot. Our defensive line, though, actually played amazing.
Your defensive line won you the game, like we said last week.
Yeah, but I said this recently, however long ago, that if they had a competent pocket passer, then it could have caused us a lot of problems and possibly lost, because there was a lot of guys open. Our defensive line played great, but our secondary and our linebackers simply cannot properly cover over a long stretch of a game or even a long stretch of a drive. So that's cause for concern. But I think the play calling was awful. In terms of Scott Turner's offensive play calling, it's like watching paint dry. He doesn't adjust to the guys he has. Ryan Fitzpatrick said this. He literally said that he doesn't adjust. And I'm not sure why he's even a coach. I heard a quote that was somebody was asked what are Scott Turner's offensive credentials, and is he a good offensive mind? Why is he here? And they said his dad was. Because his dad was a great coach, but I don't think he is.
It just didn't transfer.
Nope. No. It's like Don Shula, but then his son was that great of an NFL coach. But going on to that, an ugly win, a really ugly win. Justin Fields played like crap in the pocket, but once he exited, he actually was giving us a lot of problems. They were able to actually run on us, which is quite worrying. considering we're going to be playing 2 decent running backs this upcoming week. But that last play of the game, a 1 yard line, like juggle into a like defensive stop. It was an ugly win that I was kind of mad at.
Like I said, I didn't really see much of the game. I know the takeaway that I did get was, like I said, the D-line had to win the game for you guys, and that's what they did. They made Justin Fields uncomfortable in the pocket, which is what you have to do. They didn't let him throw the ball as much as he probably would have liked to. He passed for 190 yards, but he got sacked 5 times, only 14 completions, so he had a very average game, just looking at the box score. Now, the box score doesn't tell the whole story, but in my opinion, he had a very average game. This was a very slow game to watch, but overall, big win for you guys. You guys rise to 2-4, correct?
Yeah, 2-4. Woohoo.
2-4 through 6.
And Carson Wentz is out for like 4 to 6 weeks.
How do you feel about that? Boy wonder, Taylor Heineke coming back.
I don't know, because he has more in terms of running, but his passing isn't as great, and that may be more suited to us. But I really don't know how to explain how I feel about this, because I really have no clue. I don't really know how he's going to do. Yeah. I think he could prove problems for his legs, but his arm isn't as good.
Isn't he like 29, 30 already? Yeah. He's an old man.
Yeah, 29 is an old man.
Hey, maybe he has a breakout season.
I mean, I hope. I really do, but I don't trust Scott Turner's play calling.
Now, what happens if this is a Cooper Rush situation? You know, he comes in, he starts winning games, Carson Wentz gets healthy, what happens?
I'll wake up. I'll wake up from that dream.
My dad will pinch me?
Yeah, I'll wake up to birds chirping outside. But realistically, if that were to happen, I think Ron Rivera will act. I don't know what he'll do, because he may try and save his job, but he has faith in Carson, so I don't know what that situation would look like. If Heineke starts playing bad, and do we kind of throw Howell to the wolves this early? So I have no clue what this team's going to look like. I think we can still cause problems, especially if Jahan Dotson's able to return, which I think that's depending on this week, like today's or tomorrow's practice or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, I think our defensive line's great. The rest of our defense isn't. I don't know.
You had a loss for words.
Yeah, the coaching is baffling.
It just surprised me, because I think if Ron Rivera had an issue with the quarterback when Carson Wentz was passing for 300 yards a game, you bring in Taylor Heineke, I think this is just going to be a bigger issue. I'm just really interested to see how Ron Rivera reacts being realist.
With being real on Ron Rivera, I like the guy as a person. As a coach, I think the game has passed him by. After the season, hopefully we get new ownership, but if that's happened, I would love for him to stick around the team, but he doesn't have any control over the roster. He's not involved with coaching, but I think he can be a good team rep. I like the guy. Great story. I would love for him to stick around in the team, because I think he's kind of handled a lot of pressure, and it's not exactly a enviable situation he's in right now. But I would like for him to stick around, because I know I've slandered him a lot, but I do like him as a person. I just think the coaching side has kind of passed him by, and we've seen that. We've seen that with Chuck Noll. We've seen that with Tom Landry. It happens. It's kind of inevitable sometimes, unless you're Bill Belichick up to this point. But yeah.
All right, is that all you have for the Washington game?
Yeah, that's all I got for this piece.
Should we start
game.
part 1 of 3 of Great Weekend to be a Philly fan?
Sure.
You're just like, all right, I'm ready to be done. I'm ready to end it. Let's stop it right here. I'm done for the
week.
Later. You're like, I'm done. That's it. No. All right. So, Eagles win 26-17. So first off, just overview of the game. I got real scared in the second half. They played really well in the first half, and in the second half, I got really scared. But they did end up holding out. I think a big reason they did, for one, the offense dominated. In the first half, they ran the ball right down their throats. Moved the ball down their throats. I don't want to say ran the ball down their throats, but they just dominated the offensive side of the ball in the first half and didn't really give the Cowboys defense a chance to work through that. But and I think a big reason that they were able to dominate in the first half was the way they dealt with Micah Parsons. So instead of trying to get away from him, they read him. So wherever he went, they went the opposite side of the field, and you could see him getting flustered throughout the game. So I think that was a big part of that side of the ball. They have more points in the second quarter than through 6 games than some teams do in all their points combined through 6 games so far. Like, they are so high scoring in the second quarter. It is unbelievable. They scored 20 points in the second quarter this week. Week 1, they scored 24. I want to say against Washington, they scored 17 or 20, something like that. They just put up numbers in the second quarter. So they just absolutely dominate the second quarter. Jalen Hurts didn't put the ball in danger. Cowboys defense, one of the top defenses going into this week. And they dominated the pass in the first half. Like I said, read Micah Parsons like a book, kept the ball away from him, made him a non-factor. They did have some good rushes. They sacked Jalen Hurts 4 times. Lane Johnson did go out with an injury. I think that had a decent part in the pass rush for the Cowboys, because obviously it's easier to get through when your star right tackle isn't in. But they had 4 sacks. But other than that, I mean, they did well in the first half, and then the second half, after they kind of caught their breath for a second and realized, hey, whoa, they're coming back, they dominated the game with the run. They finished the game off and ran the ball right down the Cowboys' throat and didn't give them anything. And I got to tell you, Miles Sanders, he isn't the biggest guy, but he got the gritty yards. No pun intended with that whole Philly gritty thing, but he got those gritty yards. He wasn't hitting home runs, but he was pounding the ball down the throat, 3, 4, 5 yards at a time, and was just wearing down that Cowboys defense, which, like I said, I think I said it on here last week, for people who don't know football that much, and, you're looking at the game like, why are you running the ball right up the middle? That's where everyone is. That's why. You tire out that defense, and, like, when you're getting 3, 4 yards of play, you're going to keep on getting first downs, and it's going to wear out that defense. It hurts. I mean, when you're running 13, 14, I don't know if it was last week or this week, but they ran a 17-play drive to end off the game and just absolutely put the ball down their throat and didn't let them do anything. So they finished out the game strong with the run. Like I said, Jack Driscoll comes in for Lane Johnson, and he held down the fort for the most part. And at the end of the game, you saw they were just aggravating the defense of the Cowboys. Trayvon Diggs got an unsportsmanlike for slamming his helmet against the ground. Micah Parsons, you could see, was getting a little flustered. Took a stupid taunting penalty in, I think, the third quarter. So, yeah, they definitely aggravated the defense and took advantage of them early in the game.
It was a pretty decent game. The only thing I think you guys have... Well, I think there's 2 things you need to be a little worried about. Your run defense, they were able to, in the second and third quarter, they were able to really do all well.
Going into the defense, I'll do that, and then I'll let you add on there. So the defense played strongly for the most part. They have a really good defense. They had 3 picks, 2 from C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and 1 with slay. C.J. Gardner-Johnson getting that game-sealing pick for the most part at the end after going out with a hand injury. Going off, holding his hand like knelt over. So he comes back and gets a big pick. Did you see his interview after the game? He's like, they asked him what happened with his hand, and he's like, yeah, it hurt, but you got to come out, you got to battle, you play football, stuff happens. You have to battle and win the game, and that's what he did. Came back, won the game for the team in the big part there. But on the plus side for the Cowboys, this was bad for the Eagles defense, but I mean, the Cowboys did a really good job in the second half because they started reading the line, and I think that was a big reason they were able to do what they did. When they had 4 down linemen, they ran Ezekiel Elliott up the middle and wore down the defensive line and made them work. And then when they had 5 down linemen, when they were trying to go in to stop the rush, they did a really good job of getting Cooper Rush out of the pocket, running play action. I mean, when you set up the run the way they did in the second half, you can run anything you want for the most part. So they did a really good job of setting up play action in the second half to, confuse the Eagles defense. It almost looked like Mike McCarthy took over the play calling and, was like, it's like when you're a child and you're playing video games and you can't win and you ask your big brother to take the controller for you. So I think that's what happened there in the second half, and they made a good effort to come back, but they ended up falling short, and they shut down the Eagles defensive line. Eagles defensive line had 0 sacks. Didn't look like they were really. They did create some pressure on Cooper Rush. I think that was a big piece of it. Especially that third pick that he threw. I think there was someone in his face, and he just couldn't get his arm all the way down where he wanted to. I think that's why he threw that third pick. But overall, they played a pretty good game, and they need to figure out how to come out flying in the second half like they do in the first half. If they do that, they will be the best team in the NFL. I feel strongly that they are a Super Bowl contender. They're not a Super Bowl appearance. They're not at a Super Bowl appearance right now, if that makes sense. Like, I think they could screw around and maybe get in, but the Bills, I think the Bills are a Super Bowl like favorable. Like they can walk into the Super Bowl no issue.
Yeah, and I think like a team like that will cause a lot of like problems for you guys because the Cowboys were able to do good without like a decent quarterback against you guys. They were able to run the ball, and I just think with a proper quarterback against you guys, I think that could prove you problems. I would like to see a little more of your passing game, because 150 yards, 55 yards with 2 touchdowns is decent, but I still think he can bring that up a little more. That's the only really qualms I have with it, especially because he's going to have the proper time to throw the ball because you still have a great offensive line, but nothing really too worried to be about. I just think it's like somewhat minor adjustments you can make in a bye week or just in between games.
Which they're going to now. So.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the Cowboys did a good job of shutting down the Eagles' offense for the most part. I mean, at the end when it mattered most, they took advantage. But the Eagles only had 268 total yards. Like I said, they had 3 picks. They were working a lot with short field. But the Cowboys' defense did a good job of shutting down the offense for the most part. Miles Sanders, he had a decent game with 71 yards and a touchdown. But like you said, they shut down the passing. They weren't really able to get that down. I think they did a good job shutting down the offense. It was just the Eagles took advantage of the chances they had. And another big reason, one of the big reasons why I think we are 6-0 is the turnover ratio. The Eagles have a plus 12 turnover ratio. The next closest team has a plus 4. They don't put we have 2 offensive turnovers, and this is the best that any team has been through 6 games since 2012. So, I mean, going off of that, another reason, this is just quick reasons why I think we're 6-0. Going off of that is Jalen Hurts. He doesn't put the ball in dangerous situations. He's really good at protecting it. When he runs it, he makes sure he doesn't fumble. And when he's passing, it's very rare that you see him throw into an area where there's a lot of defenders and that it could get picked off. So he does a really good job. And the one interception that he threw it to Kenny Gainwell and it bounced off his hands and went into a defender's defender's hand. So it's not even, it should be a plus 13. Now, you obviously that counts against you as a quarterback and it is a turnover to the defense, but that was just an unlucky play. But Jalen Hurts, he's controlling the game. He plays well. Not only does he have the ability to make plays, scramble out of the pocket, make the defense work more than they should, he's also a field general. He controls what happens on the field. So I think that's a big reason. Jalen Hurts is playing really well this season.
He's limiting his mistakes, and I think that's really benefiting you guys.
And we control the ball when needed. I mean, going off of Jalen Hurts, like you saw at the end of the game, when they needed to kill the clock, they were getting those gritty yards and controlling the ball.
Like old school smash mouth football.
That was some Miles Sanders. That was some Penn State. Miles Sanders, Big Ten football at the end of the game. There,
that's by 1,000 paper cuts.
Miles Sanders and Ezekiel Elliott both out of the Big Ten. So they for sure, and Micah Parsons, throw him in there too. So they all know what it's like to just run that smash mouth, run the ball football. So they had a really good. They control the ball well. They look really good. Like I said, I don't think they are the best team in the NFL yet. I think the Bills have played higher competition and have played better against other teams. Like, for example, they just beat the Chiefs. They beat the Rams, who were Super Bowl champions last season.
They beat the Ravens, so they've beaten high.
Yeah, they beat the Ravens when they were down 20-0. So yeah, the Bills definitely are a high quality team. If the Bills play, I'm not trying to jump ahead of myself, but if the Bills play the Eagles in the Super Bowl, the country might burn down.
Yeah, two of the most
Bills Mafia and the Eagles fans. It's over.
I'm gonna use the word passionate.
Some of
the most passionate fans in the NFL. You got jumping through tables and tearing down light posts.
It would be a fun time for sure in the United States.
Well, define fun.
Passionate. They're passionate. But like I said, big win here, 6-0. And one of the big questions that everyone has been talking about, what you were talking about, is do they win this if Dak is at quarterback? One, I don't know why that question is being asked. Dak wasn't at quarterback. It doesn't matter. Cooper rushed through 3 interceptions. Eagles win. Secondly, is it a closer game? Yes. Do the Cowboys win? No. I still don't think... I think the Eagles' defense was flying. I think the fans at the link made it hard for the Cowboys to even fathom what was going on. I was listening to the Jason Kelce, Travis Kelce podcast, New Heights, and Jason Kelce was saying, when the defense is out on the field and it's 3rd down and the entire place erupts and just starts trying to make it hard for the opposing team to converse and figure out their play, and quarterback's sitting there like this trying to hear his plays, said that's what gets him going, because that's the bulk of the game right there, those big 3rd downs. So they
definitely interested in that Christmas Eve game you guys are gonna play, because I think the Cowboys, Dak, barring a big injury, I think the Cowboys offense is going to be fully back. They're going to have things figured out. And up until that point, I think the only true quarterbacks you guys going to play are maybe Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers, but the teams around them aren't really playing as well, and there's something wrong with them. So obviously I think the Giants is going to be a difficult game, but they're, I think, built more like the current Cowboys, but I think Daniel Jones is he protects the ball a little more than Cooper Rush does, obviously. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how things play out later down the road. I think
if Dak's in that game, it's a closer game, but I think because the Cowboys hadn't really played an away game to this point. They had 3 home games, and then they played in New York. But I'm sorry, Giants fans, I don't think you have that craziness to your team like the Eagles do. Um,
That's a good thing. That
yes,
is a
but
very good thing.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You play in any opposing stadium, it's going to be loud. But
Well,
I,
except, well, no, 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 no. When you play
you're
in
right. When
FedEx,
you play at
it's
FedEx,
not going to be loud.
it's going to be
It's either going to be a bunch of bitter fans or it's going to be your home fans who traveled with you because FedEx is a second home stadium. But that atmosphere you're talking about where everybody is loud, that used to be RFK. That was RFK. That was like in 1982. Every single person was chanting, "We want Dallas," and the whole stadium was shaking. That used to be us. Now we're the exact opposite of that spectrum.
yeah. But like I said, I don't think the Giants compare to the Eagles fan base, and they also
In terms
played
of
they also
passion,
played in LA, and
yeah.
LA is the home of a pop culture team. And I think that I think the Cowboys are a big, pop culture team. They get a lot of, because they're quote America's team, even though, I'm not going to get into that. They're America's team, so a lot of people just jump onto them, but I don't this was just a new test for them to play, if that makes sense. Like, you have to go into Philadelphia on Sunday Night Football, prime time. Eagles are 5-0. They're flying. Like, it was a big test, and I think even with Dak, it may have been a closer game, but I don't think they're winning that game either way.
Yeah, in the end, we don't know, but I'll be
We'll,
interested.
we'll find out on Christmas Eve, like you said. Getting into next week, I think we can just nip this in the bud right now. Eagles do not play. They're on a bye week. So Washington at home against Green Bay. How we feeling? I think Green Bay wins this.
Correction, I did too, but correction, Washington away at Green Bay alternate.
I think you can. I think you can have more fans when Green Bay is hours upon hours away. It's a little
Oh,
different.
that's not going to stop them because Green Bay is another team that has a lot
A
of.
lot of fans, but I think a big part of that is I know a couple fans, and the reason they're fans is because they hold stock in the Packers, which I think is really cool. I do like that. So I think especially since you're a part owner of the team, you're going to root for the team. You're like, I want this team to win.
Yeah. Going into the game, I think we can make it interesting in terms of offensively because they don't. The only scouting they have is from last year, but we have a completely different wide receiver. Not completely, but we've added to the wide receiver core. Brian Robinson, he proved last week he can kind of grind out those yards, kind of like what Miles Sanders did against the Cowboys at the end of the game. Very similar like drives we saw where they're just able to grind out. Like the reason we had to do that is because our offensive line wasn't up to par. The reason you had to do it is because the Cowboys have a better defense. But I don't think we're going to win because we're going to be able to pressure Aaron Rodgers, but he's mobile enough to where I think he's going to punish a lot of mistakes that happen in our secondary. I think we'll get like 3 or 4 sacks. I think that's possible. But when it comes down to it, I don't think our coaching, especially the whole thing, I don't think is going to be able to really outcoach the Packers. So I think it could be a close game, but I just can't see us getting the win.
I think there is an off chance that you guys could win this game.
It's possible. It's within the realm of possibilities, but I think we'd have to, like, the Jets had like 2 special team, like they blocked a punt for a touchdown and they blocked a field goal. Something like that would need to happen.
Now, the reason I think you could have the outside chance to win is you guys have a favorable matchup, like your defense against their offense. Their offense is struggling with receivers. They have 2 rookie wide receivers who haven't figured it out yet in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers hasn't figured out the chemistry with them yet. So as long as your secondary plays decent, you could win. And secondly, that means they run the ball a lot. And like we've said, your defensive line is playing really well right now. So if they can shut down that run, then you guys are winning that game. Now, with that being said, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers against a subpar team. he should have a field day. I
Yeah,
think they
should.
can.
And we saw last week that they didn't really run the ball. They ran it very few times. They like Aaron Jones got the ball like running it less than 10 times. So um our defensive line is playing good, but we still struggle against the run because I think once they get past that initial line, our linebackers struggle. And um I don't think the Packers' offensive line is nothing special, so that's going to be favorable for us. But when it comes down to it, I just can't see our secondary and linebackers picking the slack up enough to be able to really like shut them down enough. And we're still going to need to score. I do think Heineke's going to cause problems
Your
because the lack
offensive
of
line,
scouting.
your offensive line has to play probably the best football they've played all season.
Yeah,
Rashad
don't
Gary and Kenny Clark for the Packers are absolutely ruthless.
that's going to cause problems with the running because it's obviously going to be difficult to run up the middle with those guys. So yeah, I think we're just like if Scott Turner actually adjusts, which he's probably not going to, we should see a lot more slants. Like last week, Terry McLaurin caught like the first slant of the year, and he got yards after catch. That's what we need to do, but Scott Turner doesn't. So I mean, if he was a smart man and like adjusted his play calling, then I think we could. I still think we'll cause problems, but it's possible to win, but I just can't see us doing it.
All right, so real quick, another thing that I want to start trying to do every week. Um, Now, you can give me either, whether it's for Green Bay to expose you guys or for you guys to expose Green Bay and pull off the upset. What is your key for the game for either one? Or give me one for both.
Okay, one for both. Obviously for the Packers, it's Aaron Rodgers because he's going to need to play not a perfect game, but like looking at what happened last week, he needs to understand he's going to be rushed a lot. He's going to need to be able to not really hesitate on his throws. They need to be perfect and precise, which I think he can do. Going on into our key of the game, it's the offensive line because if we're able to establish the run game and we're able to like get a lot of those like West Coast passes where it's like you gain 3 or 4 yards every play, then we'll be able to get down the field. A quick thing on like the West Coast offense, what I believe Bill Walsh said this, but Joe Montana was saying it. What do they say about a 4-yard run, a 4 or 5 yard run? You can't do that. What do they say about a 4 or 5 yard pass? Great, we stopped them. And then if you keep adding those like little yardage games up in terms of passing, eventually you're going to find yourself down the field and the defense is going to be dead tired. And they're like, how'd this happen?
Ask Tom Brady. He's made a career out of it.
Yeah, that's Tom Brady. That's the Bill Walsh system to a T. That's how Joe Montana succeeded. So that's what we're going to need to do. So I think the key to that is the offensive line.
All right, I'll give you one for for Green Bay and Washington too. For Green Bay, in order to win, I hate to be cliche, but I do have to. I'm going to agree with you there. It's got to be Aaron Rodgers connecting with his rookie receivers. I believe did Randall Cobb go down last week? I thought he did.
I think so.
Especially with Randall Cobb going down. Actually, I'll double check on that, or if you want to, while I continue. I believe Randall Cobb went down with an injury, so connecting with his rookie receivers, exposing that secondary.
He got an ankle injury. He's out in multiple weeks.
All right, yeah. So Aaron Rodgers has got to connect with his team and spend as little time in the pocket as possible. Not like running out of the pocket, but getting the ball out quick. So I do think Aaron Rodgers needs to connect there for them to win. And if Washington wants to win, again, I don't want to follow exactly what you're saying, but going off of the way that your defensive line is playing, which I think is a part of it, they shut down that run, make them pass the ball as quickly as possible. Going to the offense, I think the offense is the biggest part of the game. You need Taylor Heineke to get rid of the ball quick. Don't spend time in the pocket because if he does, he's going to be getting sacked a lot. Your offensive line is struggling, so I'm not going to agree with you entirely saying the offensive line is the key of the game. I'm more gonna favor the timing of the passes and say that's the key. It's Taylor Heineke, snap catch boom, snap catch boom. As soon as he's gets that ball from the center, you need to be getting rid of it. So it's those 1 to 2 second out of the hand. You cannot be holding onto the ball in the pocket. That's how Washington wins the game. Do you want? Oh, you want to go over the Jim Irsay thing real quick? Which I heard bits and pieces of it. I didn't connect it all yet. So this is news to me again.
Yeah, so Jim Irsay recently came out against Dan Schneider, and this is the first owner who's publicly kind of like slandered him or kind of made light of the situation. Also on Thursday night, who's the commentator?
Chris Collinsworth.
No, Thursday night.
I like I said, I didn't watch much of the game on Thursday
Jim,
night.
it's one of the main guys.
Al-
He said
Al.
Al Michaels, that's the guy. But he came out like on Thursday night and said that they should just vote him out when they show Dan Schneider in the box, and that's big because I think this is one of the first times we've actually heard about it on national television, like on a primetime game where pretty much like the whole
all of America who watches football is watching.
Yeah, and Jim Irsay recently said that he believes there's merit to remove Dan Schneider as the Commanders' owner, and that's big considering he's the first owner who has publicly announced that he's against him. So I think that's big. I think they probably talked about it in the owners' meeting that happened last week. So I think it's a great start. I won't believe it till it happens. I know this is wishing bad things on a guy, but I generally do not like the person, and I don't think I don't know a person who does, or at least a Washington fan. I think he's one of the most universally disliked probably people in the NFL. The only people who I can think of get more is Jerry Jones and Roger Goodell. So yeah, it's big, and I think that's big development in the league because I think this is a can of worms that we're starting to open. So I think there could be greater fallout, especially for other owners.
This is turning into a interesting situation, and this for an outside, I mean, I guess like you said, it could affect league wide because say Dan Snyder is right and he does have that dirt on everybody.
Sure. Yeah.
If they first off, if they forcefully remove him from his ownership position, that's going to be interesting because one, then who wants to buy the team? That's going to be interesting to see. Secondly, if they
be a group of people,
if they forcefully remove him, what's he going to release? So this is becoming a really interesting thing, as fans to see what's going on and just seeing the kind of downfall that Dan Snyder's trying to bring upon the NFL.
Yeah, and it's 10 years ago, we were saying the same thing, but it was more localized because we all hated him, all Washington fans hated him, but since the toxic workplace stuff came out, the sexual assault allegations, I think people are starting to realize that this guy is not a great guy. And I think he's starting to get more attention league wide, which I think is big. He's getting attention nationally. He's getting attention from the literal government of the United States. So yeah, I think this could have big implications, whether he's bluffing about that whole I have dirt on everybody thing, or he actually does. I think there could be major fallout. But going on into the owners, if a big guy like Jeff Bezos came in and bought it, and I also think Peyton Manning could be involved in an ownership group is something I heard. So I think that would be good. I just want somebody who they either have to be a known football guy, but will still hire a proper GM and stuff like that, and kind of stick more towards the advertisement side of it. I think that will be significantly better, and big changes I think will come. If we do get a new owner, I can see the name changing again because I think it's kind of universally disliked still. Yeah, so I think that could change, and maybe we are able to get back in DC.
Is that all you have for the NFL though?
That's all I got for the NFL.
Yeah, I think that's all I got. like I said, part one of three of great time to be a Philly fan. Going over to the NHL, I've noticed Caps have been off to a bit of a struggling start. What's your record so far?
We're 2-2. We're currently playing right now. We're 2-0. We're up 2-0 against the Senators, but the first two games we were struggling in terms of the defensive and neutral zone and our power play going into the defensive zone. That's still more of a problem, but I've said this about last year. Our defense isn't up to it. Carlson, he's still like a point getting defenseman, but he's not that fast guy anymore. He's not really hustled on a lot of plays that have led to goals. In the neutral zone, sometimes we can try and do too much, like dump and chase, or we're not able to get into the offensive zone. The power play in the first two games, we were trying to force it to Ovi more, and we get into this idea of, let's always force it, and we weren't making the right hockey pass. But when we moved Strome down to behind the goal, that significantly improved it. We had 2 power play goals tonight. That's improved. We've started to make the correct hockey pass, and that's the best. That's been the best thing about our power play is if you just do the standard power play passes, the right ones. If they don't worry about Ovi, he's going to get a one-timer. But if they do, it's going to open up other
John Carlson, Nicholas Backstrom,
yeah.
Kuzi.
He's an Anthony Mantha. He had a power play goal. We have a lot of power forwards. We have a lot of guys who can score, so that's improving. But our goaltending has actually been pretty decent. The Canucks game, it was 4-6. We came back, but Lindgren had a great game against the Leafs. The 3 goals weren't his fault. The 5 goals against Kemper in the opening night loss to the Bruins, that was more defensive. Our goalies are actually playing pretty good, and if we're able to just shore up a little bit defensively, I think our offense will be able to pull us through because our power play is actually starting to play really well, and our offense, I think we're starting to find that Strome on the first line is really good, even though he's on the second, because Kuznetsov is suspended for this game because he hit a pretty nasty high stick in the Canucks game, but that Canucks game I think could be a big turning point for us. It's a great comeback win. We scored 6 goals, so I'm not too the only thing I would say I'm actually pretty worried about is the defense, but other than that, I think we're starting to find it.
Going over to the Flyers, I gotta say, even I'm surprised by the Flyers start. The Flyers start off pretty hot with a 3-1 start, and they just took their first loss yesterday against the Panthers. But starting at the beginning,
that was a cool game, though.
Yeah, and I mean they came in every single one of their games. They have come back, and I think a big reason. So, game 1 they played the Devils. They win 5-2. Carter Hart stands on his head, and I think the first goal that he gave up, I think he wants that back. And I think that's a big piece in every one of these games. Every one of the first 3 games, I think there is a goal that he would want back. In the first game, I think it's that first goal. He's sitting there on the post, and I just don't think he was tight enough against the post. And one of their rookies took a really sharp angle shot, and it just got through his armpit, and they scored. But Flyers fight back, and they end up winning that game 5-2. And Travis Konechny, I was out here wearing his jersey, he scores 2 goals. He's off to a great start. He has 5 points in the first 4 games. They go in the next day and they play the Canucks at home, and again, Carter Hart, an absolute brick wall after the first period. The first period, they outplayed the Canucks by an insane margin, but the Canucks came out with the 2-0 lead in the first period, and there was another shot in that game. I think it was just one where there was traffic in front and he didn't see it all the way through, but as a goalie, you don't want that to get through.
You need the eye line, because once that's taken away, you're going to let in something.
And I think that's one that he wants back, but again, they were down 2-0, they come back, win 3-2, and they outplayed the Canucks in the first period, but the Canucks outplayed them in the second and the third period, and they fought back and won the game, even though they were getting outplayed. They were going.
You had a Rangers win.
A Rangers win,
where your goalie's playing amazing. But you're outplayed.
And, I mean, there was a big. So in the second period, I want to say it was right. And what made it even better was it was right after the Phillies clinched the NLCS appearance. They they had both games on, so they had the screen split in the Wells Fargo Center so that the Flyers fans could also watch the Phillies game going on. And it was right after Sir Anthony Dominguez clinched that final out. They're on the penalty kill, and there was a play where Travis Konechny gets the puck in the defensive zone, and he looks straight up, and Scott Laughton is breaking, and he's looking to go right down the middle. Now, when you're looking to make a pass for a breakaway, you're generally looking right down the middle of the ice. The thing that made it a huge play, though, is he sees the Canucks defensemen start to converge where it would have been picked off, and instead he goes off the boards and puts it right onto Scott Laughton's stick so he can just skate into it. Scott Laughton goes in, finishes bar down on Thatcher Demko to make it 2-1. Now, if that goes to a 3-0 game, I don't know if that's the same game, but they come back, they beat the Canucks 3-2. So TK, again, has a strong game in that one. They beat Tampa, another team, 3 times going to the Cup straight, who they should have lost to, most likely.
This is another Rangers win because Carter Hart had 36 saves, but Vasilevsky only had 21, so obviously had high-quality chances.
Tampa gave them their best game. Stammer had 2 goals, 1 on the power play, and I don't know if this is one that I look at, and if I were in Carter Hart's shoes after giving up this goal, I would want this goal back. So Stammer takes a one-timer, and it gets by Carter Hart, but it kind of looked like Carter Hart's pad got stuck on the ice, and it wasn't sliding, and instead of sliding over nicely, he kind of gets stuck and just starts to fall. It looks like if you were to just push a puppy over and they just kind of and just fall over. It was very slow and looked not painful, but it looked rough to watch. So if I were a goalie, I would just be I'd be mad at my pad for getting stuck under me, and I would want that back. But again, they were down 2-0. They still, again, getting outplayed by Tampa, but they come back being down 2-0. They outplay him in the third, and John Cooper was complaining and saying that the team got complacent, and after the 2-0 deficit, and the Flyers came back and won that. Now, with this, I'll finish it off real quick. They lose to the Panthers 4-2. Again, down by 2-0. When a team scores first in the NHL, they are 70% more likely to win that game than if they were to not score the first goal. The Flyers have outdone that in all these games. They have come out and taken away those 2-0, 1-0 deficits, played hard to come back. I think in this loss against the Panthers, I think after they come back, I think they had just been fighting back so hard in all these games, they just finally ran out of air. Felix Sandstrom played a great game. Travis Konechny, another guy who played a great game. He got it was a 4-3 loss. Because at the end of the game, there was a play, I think it wasn't the power play, but it was at the end of the game. They had a 6-5, they pulled the goalie. They go from the blue line to Kevin Hayes, and he passes it cross ice right onto TK's stick, and he shoots it wide open net. But he stayed hot, and they got outplayed for the most part in this game. But they came back, made it a 2-2 game, and ended up just not being able to finish out the game and lose 4-3. Now, just taking all those games and looking into them in one big clump. First off, it's 4 games. It's not a big sample size. You can't take how they're going to play throughout the season just off those 4 games. But up through those 4 games, first off, they're playing better 5v5. The players look like they have something to play for. They are playing to prove everyone wrong. John Tortorella has implemented a system that you can see where he wants them to play hard, and they are playing hard. They're more gritty. They're making more hits. They're just really taking it to the other team physically, which takes a toll on a team throughout a game. So they're just playing more physical and really putting in a John Tortorella system. Another thing is the young guys are playing hard. Again, they look like they're playing for something. Hart looks great. He had no preseason, but he still is putting on great shows. I think he has one bad goal in every single one of those games that he plays, but he's still playing great. D'Angelo is starting off with a point in all 4 of these games. The power play has a goal in all 4 of these games. Ivan Provorov and D'Angelo look like they're starting to mesh well. I think there's still a little bit to. I still think there's a little bit of chemistry to be made between the two because they haven't played that long together. But for only playing their 5 games together, they look pretty good. Overall, I think it looks like it should be a decent team. Again, 4 games. I'm not diving too far into it. There's a lot of hockey to be played. But if they were to play like they are right now through the entire season, they're going to be a Cinderella team and they're going to play well throughout the season. And it's going to be a really exciting team to watch. I think as of right now, it still is because it's a lot of young guys. Noah Cates got that game-winning goal against Tampa, makes an amazing individual effort and strips the puck from the Lightning defenseman and just kind of turns around and whips it at the net. And I don't think Vasi was ready for it. Gets by him, goes off the post and in. So it just looks like they're all playing for something. Like they're all in the cup every single day. And it's just a really fun team to watch right now. So I'm getting a little excited. But
I'm just interested to see if they'll like have the consistency to do this over the full season.
That is a big thing.
It's hard for me to say that I think they will. I still think it's early, and this just could be a hot start, but it could just like burn out. But yeah, I think it's shown that there's some potential there.
They were saying yesterday on the broadcast that, TK, he got off to a hot start last season, and he kind of fizzled out. He has 4 goals through 4 games right now. Now, is that a goal per game pace able to keep up even for Alexander Ovechkin? No. So he's not going to keep up that goal per game. It's still early, but he kind of fizzled out. And like I said, in this Florida game, I think after that comeback, they just ran out of air. They got tired. They've been playing all these games from behind, and when you're playing from behind, you're playing a lot harder than when you're playing with the lead. So I think like you said, it's going to be a hard pace to keep up, and if they do, props to them. Like I said, they're going to be a Cinderella team, but they look like they have potential, and it's going to be a really fun season to watch. And I'm already having fun watching the team, especially with the Eagles doing what they're doing. And do you have anything else for the NHL?
I do not.
Yeah, so just going off of that, the Flyers are doing what they're doing, Eagles are doing what they're doing, and Philly's going to the NLCS. But before we get into that, I do want to tell you guys about Bomberger real quick. 2 guys that we went to school with from elementary school, so we've known them for years upon years at this point. 2 guys, they just opened a food truck over the summer called Bomberger. It is a smash burger type food truck based out of Loudoun County. They're based out of Lovettsville. They have great burgers. They do a lot of specials on the weekends. I had them personally. I really do enjoy them. I used to work with one of the guys, and he would bring in the burgers occasionally and make the food for us. So they do have really good food, really good ingredients. They're doing it the right way, getting the best ingredients they can to make it the best food they can. They go to different places all over the place. They post all their stuff on Instagram and Facebook. So if you want to check them out, like I said, they're a food truck, so they're going to different places all the time. They are expanding more, getting more out to Leesburg, out to Ashburn, getting out there more in Loudoun. So if you guys want to check them out, do go check them out on Instagram and Facebook at Bomberger Food Truck, and they will post their stuff on there. But definitely go look at them and try to look into getting one of their burgers. But going off of that, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I'll end it with the episode, and I'll say it right now. Great time to be a Philadelphia fan. The Phillies surprised the world and beat the Braves 3-1 in the NLDS.
Yeah.
I think, I gotta say, I think a big piece of it is, one, the offense got hot, but the number one reason that I think the Phillies beat the Braves in that series is Philadelphia was going absolutely crazy. I mean, you have 46,000 fans all there. You hear it every time the count has 2 strikes in the Phillies' favor. The place is going crazy. You can feel it through the TV. I mean, there is just an energy to the game that I don't think the Braves were ready for. And I think that goes into this series too, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But the bats were getting hot, and The bullpen, I think, was another big piece. They were shutting down the games. They, even in those games where I want to say the offense played a big part for the most of the games. The bullpen played a big part in the Padres game 1, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but I just don't think the Braves were ready to go into Philadelphia and ready for that fan craze that there was. I don't think Atlanta was.
They weren't ready for. They didn't look like they were ready to play games 3 and 4. They got punched in the mouth relatively early, and they just
kind of laid down.
Yeah.
So they definitely surprised there. Beat the Braves in 4 games, and they move on to the NLCS against
where you guys had
all odds.
A one hitter in the first game against the Padres where Kyle Schwarber hit the ball 480 feet.
A single hit, they win 2-0. Dude, the clip of Bryce Harper after Kyle Schwarber hit that home run where Bryce Harper's just standing there it is the funniest thing in the world.
Schwarber and Harper are the only ones that had hits for the Phillies, and each of them had a home run, but
Game 1 was a pitching duel. Game 1 was a pitching. It was a clinic, is the word I was looking for.
Wheeler went 7 with 1 hit on 1 walk, 8 strikeouts, and then your bullpen came in and shut
them down. Darvish, he had 9 strikeouts, I believe. He only had 2 hits. Aside from those 2 home runs,
he had a decent game.
He had 7 hits or
7 strikeouts.
Oh, I thought he had 1. I knew it was either plus or minus 1 from Wheeler's. I just didn't remember which one. But I mean, Darvish also played an amazing game. You got to give both pitchers credit. It was just the Phillies had that little spark that got them past there. Game 2, you saw it affect them. You can't win games with solo home runs. Yes, you can win 1 and 2, 1 game here, 1 game there with solo home runs like they did in game 1. But you can't win a series just off of solo home runs.
You need situational hitting, and I think that could be the downfall of this team is when, you don't have a Zach Wheeler 1 hitter through 7. I think that could be your issue because you have a bunch of, guys who can hit, for power throughout the lineup, but I think you're missing, the on-base guys, your situational hitting, and that's what the Padres had in this game, in my opinion. Josh Bell.
He hit it.
I still love Josh Bell, but he went 4 for 3, and this is he had a very great game after
3 for 4. How do you go 4 for 3?
Yeah, 3 for 4 with a 2-run homer, I believe it was, but
it was 1. Yeah. He had a solo because him and Brendan Drury went back to back.
They don't hit back to back. Oh yes, they did. Okay, for some reason they put Will Myers in between them, but
Will Myers came in for Brendan Drury later in the game.
Yeah, but I just think they had better situational hitting, and I think that could prove to be the upside of them. But yeah, I think this is going to be a 7-game series.
I think the Phillies win in 6, and I'll give you the exact reason why. I said from before the series even started. First off, I have more faith in the Phillies being able to beat the Padres than I had in them being able to beat the Braves. First off, they're on their own riding high, with the whole nobody likes us mentality like the Eagles had, and that they're on their own. Secondly,
but what happened the previous 10 years when they still had that mentality, though?
Secondly, they I think that Philadelphia is in such a craze right now that as long as they went into Philly, which they are, going 1-1, tied in the series 1-1, that the Phillies will win the series. Because I think the Phillies win 2 of those 3 games in Philadelphia at least. I think they could sweep them in Philadelphia. I don't think there is a... I feel like the Phillies fans have been... I do want to say starved a bit more than the Padres fans. Like I said, it's been 11 years.
No, Tristan. No. Do not say that.
First off, hold on. No, listen. There's a reasoning to it. I'm not saying the Padres fans, had a heavenly start. It's been 24 years since the Padres made it to the NLCS. It's been 12 since the Phillies made it. It's 2 very long awaited spots for the Padres and the Phillies. But the Padres have had a couple years longer of hope. I mean, with Fernando Tatis, Manny Machado,
They were man.
they had good come up from their
They had good
Triple A
regular
system.
season
They had a
teams,
good they had good farm systems.
but they weren't able to make it past like the wild card. And I think like it's possible that you do this in Philly. I do like do what you said they will in Philly, but the problem is you're hitting. You're going to need to get more hits. You're not going to
See, I also
like
just I also
not a lot of game ones are going to happen. Like you got more and you got more, like 8 hits in game 2, but again, like it. I
a
think
lot
it
of
comes
runners left
down.
on base.
Yeah, you need runners on base. You need situational hitting, and I think that could prove a problem. I think they could win. I think they will win 2 games in Philly.
Now,
But
I would have to disagree with you in the fact that you say they don't have situational hitting. Reese Hoskins, one of the
well,
best. Well, I'm just
they
saying
have it, but I don't think it's as good as the Padres. Is what I should have
because
said.
I feel Bryson Stott is one who works well all across the field. Gene Segura is one of the best contact hitters in the league, in my opinion. Reese Hoskins, one of the top hitters in doubles every season. It's definitely gonna be who has the hottest bat because as we've seen in both of these games, it's just one team gets the offense and then the other team gets the offense. It's definitely, I think the biggest difference maker will be from the Padres bullpen. The Padres bullpen has been absolutely lights out in the playoffs. So
Josh Hader has stepped it up from like the ending of the regular season where he's looking awful. That I think could definitely prove an issue for
who broke him in the regular season? The Phillies. They need to do that again. After he played the Phillies and he blew a save, and then after that he kind of fell off, and I think that's why the Brewers traded him. And then he came back out and
like,
he fixed it.
Yeah. Okay.
He's now touching 3-digit speeds with his pitching on his fastball and his sliders. So, I mean, he pitches well, but the bullpen is just absolutely insane. I mean, you saw in game 1, they shut down the Phillies offense after those 2 home runs. Then in game 2, first off, after Blake Snell gave up those 4 runs and you thought he was done, he came back out, pitched a great remaining 3 innings because he pitched 5, 6, and 7. Pitched a great remaining. No, it was just 2 innings, and then after that, he went out and the bullpen came in and just absolutely shut down the Phillies offense. The
only guy who gave up a run from their bullpen is your guy, Ranger Suarez.
No, the Padres. What?
Robert Suarez, not Ranger. Robert
I was gonna say I'm so confused.
Not Ranger. Why did I say Robert?
And
Robert
he gave up a home run to Reese Hoskins. So like I said, you can't be hitting only solo home runs, but it is going to be an interesting series. I think it'll be Phillies in 6 just because I think the home atmosphere will play a big factor, and I feel like the home atmosphere in Philadelphia is stronger than it is in San Diego. And I think that's the biggest difference maker. And I'm trying to say that in as an unbiased opinion as possible, and I know it doesn't sound it, but I do think that the Phillies atmosphere is bigger than
they don't have the playoff experience the Padres do. Manny Machado, he's lost the World Series, but he's been deep in the playoffs before. Juan Soto has been deep in the playoffs before.
He won a World Series.
Darvish, Blake Snell. I just think, like, yes, they may have the home field advantage, or in terms of the atmospheric advantage, but I think the Padres have like a lot more experienced guys. Like, a lot of the guys on your team really haven't made any deep playoff runs. You had obviously Bryce Harper losing in the second round of the playoffs with the Nats consistently every year, but I think that could also play a factor as well. As
Kyle Schwarber's been. Nick Castellanos
he's been there, but
Nick Castellanos has gone a couple times.
Like, looking at it in total, I think the Padres possibly have a little more experience there.
It will be an interesting series to say the least.
I think it's going to be a 7-game series. I'm not going to be surprised if, like, with either team winning, but I think both teams are going to get smoked by the Astros.
Wow. Is
The
that all,
Astros are. I hate the Astros, but they're good. I
or
just can't see the NL beating them.
is that all you have for the MLB? Or, well, for the episode, I mean, I think that's really it.
That's all I got. I want to like the Yankees. We beat the Guardians, but we're gonna get smoked by the
The
Astros. It's gonna
Astros
be
are a
like,
good team. Uh,
yeah.
but to finish it off there, all of our stuff over on this side of the screen. Nope. No matter what you do, it's wrong. But over on this side of the screen, Instagram and TikTok, both BL in the DC, if you want to check those out. You can email us questions and comments at blinthedc@gmail.com. You can rate us and review us on Spotify and Apple. And check out our YouTube. We do weekly NFL predictions and do the games. We're keeping a little bit of a competition here. Jacob making a rise in this past week, so if you want to check that one out, go look at that video. And we're going to do the new reverse retro NHL jerseys just released, so we're going to do a video going over those. And like I said, I will close it out like I said I said it just now, and I'm going to close it out here with, it's a great time to be a Philly sports fan.
See you later.
We will see you guys next week.